Good morning. Welcome to your last 2 weeks. The last 2 weeks assignments are kind of a summative of everything that you have done so far. So I'm going to go over this really quickly. You've got, again, if you go to content and you go all the way down to the bottom, 15 and 16, it's a web page. And I'm using the word web page here very liberally. We're not going to do any coding or anything like that. We're just going to have you find one of the very common web packages out there and have you use that and click on web page, and that's going to open up this document right here. And if you go on down to page 5 of this document, it tells you everything that you need to know. So essentially what teachers use web pages for anymore is kind of a stockpile of information, a place more for people to be able to find them on a greater scale than to actually post information like you would in an LMS. So what you need to do for this is these are the things that you need to create. And don't recreate these. You're going to just use the material that you've already done this year and add them to a web page for other people to see. So you've got that presentation that you did on redefining relevant and current content, and you've got your Symbaloo links. I want you to create a logo for yourself or for any particular class. Most of you at this point are probably going to want to create an instructor logo, something that can be identified with who you are. I want you to put a link to your LMSs. This one's going to be careful on this one because some of you use temporary ones. Most of you had one that was permanent that you'll always have that particular log on, like Edmodo or Schoology. So go ahead and create a link to that LMS. I want you to put a link to those quizzes or to the work that you did in Google. And I want you to put up that flipped lesson plan. You are welcome to add anything else that you want to from this particular year. So for example, your Twitter handle. I would add your Twitter to it. I would add maybe some information on how to get onto Zoom. I would maybe, and I already said to add those 3 uh, Symbaloos that you did, right? You're welcome to put a screencasting video up if you want to, but again, you don't have to, right? And I would also add your blog to it so that people can find your blog and your information. And again, I want you to think about this web page as something that your future parents of your students might see and your students might see. These are typically done, you have to think about your generation here. How many of you actually go out and look at web pages of schools anymore? They're very simple and they're usually just a holding place for links to other things. And that's what I want you to do. Now, keep in mind, you guys can make this look any way you want it to, but again, I want it to look a little professional. We're not looking for, you know, Howard's House of Handy here. We're looking for an educational web page. Okay, so keep those things in mind. Keep your visuals interesting to your audience, but again, applicable to your audience as well. You're not going to put up pictures of glue bottles for a senior class. So keep those things in mind. I would probably keep your visuals very generic at this point, right? Somewhere in your web page, you need a 200 word or more, and again, keep that in mind. That's, not very long, and it can be a little shorter, it can be a little longer. Biographical description of yourself. Tell them a little bit about yourself, keeping in mind everything here is public, so only tell them what you want them to say. Put some sort of a copyright and fair use statement in it. Make sure that all of your grammar, punctuation, all of that stuff is there. And there are a variety of online web pages that you can use. They're not below. I'm going to show you where those are. Okay, so if you click on web page here, it's actually called Web Page Requirements. And this is a listing of free platforms to create web pages for personal use. And all of these, you'll notice, right? Blogger and WordPress Those can be turned into web pages to be used. EduBlogs goes along with a lot of schools use EduBlogs. Glogster, more of a scrapbook type thing, but you can look through here. I'm going to get rid of this material down here. Please ignore it. It's not supposed to be there. It's one of my copy and paste problems that I thought I had fixed, but I didn't, right? So keep all of those things in mind. The rubric, if you notice, there's a rubric listed here as well. Please ignore that until about midweek. There's some errors in there and some things that I thought I was going to want you to do, but I don't anymore. And so I want to change that and make it a little more relevant. So when you're looking for your information, click on that right there. And again, I've already got it open. Here is your list of things that you should use. Have some fun with this and post, there isn't a Dropbox yet, but post your link to your web page in the Dropbox. The very last thing that you're going to have, and I'll show you this here, is you've got a summative paper. And I'm going to want that in a discussion post and in the Dropbox that isn't there yet. And that summative paper is really just for you to sum up your semester. And I want you to take it from the angle of how can what you've learned be used in a classroom, or the opposite side of that, how can it not be used in a classroom? So keep all those things in mind. If you have any questions, don't be afraid to ask. I'm around. Thanks.